Hi, everyone. We're just going to give it a few minutes while everyone joins. And so we'll just get started in just about a minute or two. All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. We've got kind of a full presentation today. So we'll kind of just jump right into it. My name is Noah Kobayashi, and I am the prize lead from the American Made Challenges team for this prize. So this is Digitizing Utilities round 2. So to kind of kick things off a little bit, I'll give you kind of a highlight of the agenda for this morning. We've got a couple of overviews. So first one will be from the Office of Electricity. The second one will be from the Office of Cybersecurity, Energy Security, and Emergency Response, or CSER. Both of those are Department of Energy offices. I'll quickly do an overview of American Made for those of you who are new to American Made. And then we'll jump right into prize specifics with an overview of Digitizing Utilities round 2, some important dates and events, what you'll be submitting to the prize for your phase 1 submission, some utility partner support that's available to you all, and then some of our power connectors, and then have time at the end for questions. So with that, I'll hand everything over to Sandy from the Office of Electricity.
Hello, my name is Sandra Jenkins from the Office of Electricity within the Department of Energy. We do a number of things at the Department of Energy, but one of the biggest things is help fund research and development in the whole energy sector. Our office focuses on the electricity sector kind of from soup to nuts. We do a lot of coordinating with some of the other offices that are more on the end use side of things, in terms of, for example, coordinating with the ERE on renewable energy and energy efficiency, but then on other offices, including nuclear energy, fossil energy, and things like that. And I think if you could go to the next slide. And could you just tell me the title of that slide? Unfortunately, I'm having trouble getting audio.
No worries. This is the transmission reliability and renewable integration slide, program areas and goals.
Great, awesome. And so the main program that I have is the Transmission Reliability Renewable Integration Program. And that focuses on really trying to get into how do we promote integration of renewables on the electricity grid in terms of allowing the grid to be a hub for these different technologies, right? So not just the traditional sources of generation, but looking at other sources of generation, especially the up and coming ones like renewable energy, to try and look at them from a holistic perspective, the things that need to change on the grid. One of those is data and information, really trying to make sure that we're able to have the right information we need in order to connect the grid and operate it effectively for these new resources. And then next slide.
And so this is the sensors and data analytics slide.
Okay, great. And so within this sector, we kind of look at data and information of our programs. This is kind of one of the main areas that is really trying to drive this prize. We're trying to connect data experts to experts in other in the utilities in order to facilitate the digitalization, to use the word from the prize, of these resources that allow of these data resources that allow for better integration of renewable energy, better integration of demand response, and the kind of whole gambit of challenges facing the grid, from the changing climate needs, weather impacts, and things like wildfires, the whole gambit. Next slide.
So we'll hand things over to David from the Office of Cybersecurity, Energy Security, and Emergency Response, or CSER, which is a little bit shorter of a name. So David?
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this important event. So my name is David Tucker, and I work for Western Area Power Administration, a DOE Power Marketing Administration, as the Chief Enterprise Architect. But currently, I'm in a detailed position serving in CSER, which stands for Cybersecurity, Energy Security, and Emergency Response, as the RD&D Program Manager. So what I want to, if you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So I'd like to give all of you an overview of what CSER does and our mission. So our mission of CSER is to strengthen the security and resilience of the energy sector in general, by addressing all hazards, both man-made and natural threats. Our division within CSER has a total portfolio of approximately 130 million and close to 90 active projects that are led by a mix of partners involved in research, development, and demonstration activities. There are several threats and hazards to the energy sector that the office is working to address under a separate program shown at the bottom of this slide. Cybersecurity RD&D first. So this program is focused on protecting our nation's energy sector infrastructure, making it more reliable and resilient through research and development projects that are working to create advanced cybersecurity capabilities and solutions. These projects are creating new tools and technologies that don't exist today, but once they are created, the intent is for them to be used broadly across the energy sector. Since this is a multidisciplinary area, which brings in power system operations, physics, computer science, these projects often involve partnerships with electric utilities, vendors, suppliers, national labs, and universities, all working closely together toward the program vision of resilient energy delivery systems. The second area we address is climate effects, climate risks. This program creates and implements innovative solutions that will reduce the impact of climate effects, mitigating climate effects through innovative tools and technologies that will help electric utilities build resilience, operate through extreme events, and enhance rapid recovery. The next area we deal with is physical security. Physical security addresses vandalism, sabotage, ballistic damage to utility power substations. Today's physical protection approaches for utility substations include methods such as video surveillance, access control, and physical barriers. Physical security improvements are needed to further minimize intrusion and damage. The next area is what's called EMP and GMD. So the program is addressing the risks associated with electromagnetic pulse attacks and/or geomagnetic disturbances. Projects in the portfolio are modeling EMP and GMD effects on energy systems, testing critical components to better understand how it stands up to EMP and GMD, and deploying and evaluating tools and technologies to mitigate adverse impacts from EMP and/or GMD. And lastly, we also look at our supply chain. As many of you probably understand, hardware and software supply chain attacks are a growing concern. The supply chain program addresses vulnerabilities, including reliance on untrusted foreign suppliers and software developers. Securing the supply chain will help better protect energy sector assets, software, and data as the energy infrastructure evolves. So in closing, CSER is happy to participate in this prize, and we are looking forward to working with the winners from this competition as they advance the current state of the art towards the next phase of commercialization. I'll turn it back over to you, Noah.
Great. Thank you so much, Sandy and David, for those overviews from both of you guys' offices. And so like I said in the beginning, I also wanted to do a quick overview of American Made for those of you who are new. So the American Made program is your fast track to the clean energy revolution. Funded by the U.S. Department of Energy, we incentivize innovation through prizes, training, teaming, and mentoring, and connecting the nation's entrepreneurs and innovators to America's national labs and the private sector. And so one of the things that American Made is super excited about is that we've been able to provide $240+ million in cash prizes and support across about 70+ different prizes. And we've got over 400 members in our American Made network. So we're really excited to have you all kind of participate and compete and join us in this program. And so one of the other big questions we get about, American Made and our prizes is, what's the difference between a grant versus a prize? Or, why are you utilizing a prize and not a grant? And so we have this little diagram to try and help clarify that a little bit. So on the left, you have your grant process. And as you can see, there's a handful of steps that you have to do before you actually start doing the work and then get reimbursement. And then, all that gets reviewed and then it finally gets issued. And so that can take a lot of time, especially when you have to do, if you make adjustments to your scope of work, you kind of have to go through this whole process and review. Prizes, on the other hand, are what we are calling the fast track method. So it's essentially, we are trying to award you for work that you've already done. So you achieve your predefined goal, you complete the submission packet, judges will score it, and then you receive payment. It's really kind of that clear and clean that we're just trying to get the money out to you as quickly as possible to incentivize your innovation. So let's jump into a little bit of digitizing utilities round 2 a little bit more specifically. So round 2 is offering $1.85 million as a total prize pool, and it aims to connect utilities with interdisciplinary teams to solve pressing challenges in the energy sector. So with recent advancements in grid technology, utilities are gaining access to unprecedented levels of new data. But really, in order to make the most of this, newfound data, they need to go a pretty heavy transformation in how they manage and process that grid data. And then similarly, advancements in grid technology can also pose cybersecurity challenges as well for these utilities. So to resolve these challenges, utilities will have to improve their risk identification, analysis, prediction, and their proactive response for enhanced protection of their digital energy infrastructures. So in light of these utility challenges, the DOE's Office of Electricity with support from DOE CSER office are sponsoring 2 tracks in the Digitizing Utilities round 2 prize. So the first track will be our Utility Digitization or Data Challenge. And in this track, competitors will work with their utility partner to identify a data-related challenge and propose a thorough solution by the end of phase 2. On the other hand, we have track 2, which is our Utility Cybersecurity Challenge. Competitors will work with their utility partner to identify a cybersecurity-related challenge, and again, propose a thorough solution by the end of phase 2. So note that as competitors, you guys have the option to propose your solution in either track 1 or track 2, or potentially both. If you feel that your solution can resolve data-related challenges and cybersecurity-related challenges, you can denote in your submission that you want to be considered for both tracks. DOE does have the ability at its discretion to move your submission into a single track if you are one of the folks who say that you can do both. At their discretion, they are able to move your submission to one of those tracks. But if you choose to compete in both tracks 1 and 2, so the data challenge and the cybersecurity challenge, you are eligible to receive prizes from both tracks. So just kind of want to make that clear a little bit. And then both tracks will follow the same price structure and format, both with 2 phases. So phase 1, which is what we're calling plan, is where you'll form teams and connect with your utility partner to identify a data or cybersecurity or both challenge and propose a solution. And for the data challenge, the data track, up to 8 winners will receive $75,000 cash each. And for the cybersecurity track 2, up to 6 cash prizes of $75,000 each will be awarded. And from phase 1, those winning teams will advance into phase 2, which is what we are calling progress. And so in progress, or phase 2, you'll have 6 months to kind of develop and refine your solution that addresses the challenge that you identified in phase 1, and work with your utility partner to really get it to the best spot it can be in that 6-month time frame. And then again, you'll resubmit, kind of what you've done in phase 2, and track 1, which is the data challenge, up to 3 cash prizes of $200,000 each will be awarded. And then for the cybersecurity challenge, 1 cash prize of $200,000 will be awarded for that. And again, if you decide to compete in both tracks, you can win. You could be selected as a winner in both versions, so you can double how much money you are winning. And then I also wanted to provide a timeline just for you all to get a sense of the overall length of the prize and what we're looking at. So the prize was launched in October of this year. Your phase 1 submissions will be due at the end of February. We'll take those submissions, we'll pass it over to our judges and DOE, who will review and make the final announcement, which we're planning for about April of 2024. From there, those winning teams will have about 6 months, so about till September of 2024, to develop their solution and resubmit everything. And then again, shortly thereafter, we'll pass everything back over to judges and DOE once again, where they'll review and make the final winner announcement, which we're planning for in about October of 2024. The other thing that I wanted to cover briefly was eligibility for the prize. So the prize is open to individuals, teams, private entities, both for-profits and non-profits, as well as non-federal government entities such as states, counties, tribes, municipalities, and academic institutions. If you are a Digitizing Utilities Round 1 competitor, we would encourage you to reapply to Round 2 with updated submission materials. However, any team who has won any phase of Round 1, they are discouraged from submitting the same or similar idea to this round or any future round of the prize. So just kind of want to make that clear. If you're a private entity, it should be incorporated and maintain a primary place of business in the United States. Academic institutions must also be based in the United States, and individuals competing as part of a incorporated private entity are allowed to participate if they're legally allowed to work in the United States. And so there's a handful of other eligibility requirements, and I would strongly encourage you to refer to the official rules document that's on the HeroX page for the complete eligibility requirements. Again, this is just a quick snapshot that we wanted to highlight, but again, there are additional ones that we want you to make sure that you meet entirely. So with that, let's jump into what you'll kind of actually be submitting for the prize. And so, like I said, the first thing that I would recommend is to read the rules. I think this is the first and foremost, the most important thing you can do as a competitor. There's lots of information in there, specifically about your submissions, what judges are looking for, and again, the eligibility pieces and stuff like that. A lot of that information is in there. So we strongly encourage you to read the entire rules all the way through, and make sure that you have a sense of what's going on with the prize. And so with that, I'll just be highlighting a few aspects of the prize and your phase 1 submission. So again, it's really important that you read the full document. So in phase 1, which again is the plan phase, you will be submitting a 90-second video that will be made public, a cover page, a narrative that answers 4 or 5 questions if your submission is going for both tracks. You'll also be making one summary PowerPoint slide that will also be public. And then you will be required to upload letters of commitment or support from a utility partner. And that is, unless you are a utility yourself, then that part obviously is a little redundant. So again, just I'm only highlighting a few things here. So for the 90-second video that's going to be public, it'll be 90 seconds, and some of the suggested content is to describe your team and how it's qualified to solve the selected utilities problem. And then describe your proposed solution and why it's the best approach to the utilities challenge. Again, there's no specific scoring criteria for this video, but it does count as part of your whole submission. And this is really the first introduction of your team and the solution to the reviewers. So we would strongly recommend that you put some time into this, make it a great video. We're not asking you to spend thousands of dollars to do this, but put some thought, put some effort into there, because again, it is part of the first intro to the judges and the reviewers, and it is evaluated as part of your entire package, even if there isn't specific scoring criteria for this one. And then the bulk of your submission will be the narrative. So you'll have 2,500 words to answer the first 4 questions. Or again, if you're submitting to both tracks, you'll have up to 3,250 words. And in both cases, you'll get up to 5 supporting images, figures, or graphs. So the first question, pretty straightforward. What is your team's past experience in providing solutions for the related challenges that you've identified? Question 2, what is your solution to the problem? Question 3, what are your goals that you're aiming to achieve in the progress phase? So phase 2, what will you try to be doing? Question 4 is your implementation plan, and how will you measure the success of your approach? And again, so if you're doing either track 1 or track 2, those are your 4 questions. If you are going to be doing competing for both tracks, you should be answering this question as well. How does your solution simultaneously address both the utility digitization and data challenge, as well as the utility cybersecurity challenge? And these questions themselves don't have a specific word count, but in aggregation, you should be under that 2,500 or that 3,250 word limit, depending on if you're doing just a single track or both tracks. Something to keep in mind. And so again, once you have your entire submission, you can go to HeroX, which is our platform that we are using for the submissions. And your plan phase submissions are due by February 25th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Eastern. Late submissions will not be accepted, so please make sure that you get them in on time, but early is probably best in case you encounter any difficulties. Then you can reach out to us and let us know that you're having issues submitting before the deadline. And again, submissions can be entered at herox.com/digitizing utilities round 2. This is that little screenshot above. You'll just hit click on the solve this challenge button, and that'll take you in where you can answer the questions and upload your submission. So that's your entire submission package, but I also wanted to highlight some of the competitor support that's available to you all. So first, I wanted to highlight our utility partner support that we're trying to put together for you all. So we wanted to recognize that maybe not all of the competitors have an existing relationship with the utility. So kind of in response to this, we've wanted to open up 2 different opportunities for you all. And the first one is what we're calling a team search. And there's 2 options in this one. So you can post on HeroX, which will be opening up a forum shortly, that you can kind of put out there that you are interested in participating in the prize, but you don't have a utility partner, and you can list your name, email, team partners, capabilities, areas of interest and expertise, and also your experience in the challenges and that kind of stuff, and what you are looking to do with utilities. And then we will pass it along to interested utilities, and they can look through the form and reach out to you. Additionally, if you don't feel comfortable putting that information onto the HeroX where it's public, feel free to email us with that same information at digitizingutilities.prize@nrel.gov. And we will pass along all of that information to interested utilities as well. We'll make sure that they have visibility into both sides, the HeroX forum, but also anyone who emails us. And then separately, we are also expanding our power connectors and their support to create a teaming event and webinar. We're aiming for this event to be held in early to mid-December. So please make sure that you follow the challenge on HeroX for all those updates. And again, we're working with our power connectors to put together this event for you all so that you guys can be connected more directly with utility partners and get your submissions in. And then I also wanted to highlight our specific power connectors for this prize. So we have power connectors are amazing companies that we've partnered with to promote our prizes, as well as to provide application assistance and mentorship. So for this prize, we've partnered with Yet2 and an Ensemble. And starting with Ensemble is a SBA certified 8A open innovation consultancy. They are a team dedicated to prize challenge management and innovator outreach. Ensemble exists to help federal agencies co-create impactful solutions, connect with talented niche innovators, and advance new technology. They remain committed to supporting the public sector in its digital transformation. And for them, this means managing high-quality programs, delivering cutting-edge competitions, and engaging innovative audiences with tailored marketing and communications. And then secondly, we have Yet2, which is a technology scouting and innovation consulting company headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts. Founded in 1999, Yet2 partners with Fortune 500 companies and US government departments to scout for innovative technologies, addressing some of the broader challenges faced by these organizations that can't be solved internally. And Yet2's strengths lie in their ability to be able to identify novel solutions and work with their clients to facilitate strategic partnership with smaller innovative companies. So we're really excited to have both Yet2 and Ensemble with us on this prize. And for round 2 of Digitizing Utility specifically, Yet2 will be providing mentorship office hours throughout phase 1. So be sure to be following the HeroX page for Digitizing Utilities round 2, and we'll post the link to sign up for their office hours on there as well. And so with that, kind of like some of the next steps, and you'll probably have heard it a lot from me this morning, but please make sure you're following round 2 of the prize on the official platform HeroX. That's where if we'll be posting updates about the prize if there's anything that needs to be changed or to inform you all of. So please make sure you're following it. And again, that's where we'll be posting the link to sign up for the office hours. That's also how you can get in touch with us. That's where you will be posting in the forum if you're searching for a utility partner and all of that kind of stuff. Additionally, that's where the official rules document is. Again, please read that and make sure that you have read it fully and you understand it. If you've got questions, please feel free to reach out to us. join us for that utility teaming event that's coming up if you don't already have a utility partner. And then lastly, again, you need to submit your application through that HeroX platform before February 29th at 5 p.m. Eastern. Earlier is better, but at the very least on time. And so again, just to, should you have any questions or clarifications, if you need anything, that please reach out to us at Digitizing Utilities Prize at nrel.gov. We're happy to answer any questions that you guys might have or clarify anything that you guys might need. So with that, want to open it up to any questions if there is anything. And please use the Q&A chat box to ask any questions that you guys may have. This is a recorded webinar that we will make available on HeroX. So if you need to run and want to see what questions were asked, feel free to come back to the HeroX page and watch the recording. The utility partner event has not been set in stone yet. So we will we're working to put that together. And as soon as we have a date and time and everything, we will post an update on the HeroX page to let you all know of when that is and the link to register for it. So again, please make sure that you're following the HeroX page to see those updates. So there's a question. This is round 2. Is participation contingent upon having participated in round 1? Absolutely not. If you're completely new to American Made in general, or you've done other prizes, you do not have to have participated in round 1. The only caveat here that we have with round 1 is that if you've participated in round 1, you're encouraged to reapply to round 2 with updated submission materials. And anyone who's won a previous round, please don't submit the same or similar idea to this round. But again, if you're completely new to American Made and you've never participated in any prize, let alone round 1 of this prize, you're still completely eligible to participate in round 2. Let's see. There's a question: what is required from a utility partner? Just a support letter and in phase 2 working with the utility. Yeah, pretty much. So what we're looking for is that you have a relationship, either new or existing, with the utility partner that you can work with to develop and refine your solution. So again, phase 1, we're just looking for that letter of commitment or support. And then in phase 2, you would actually start working with that utility a little bit more hands-on, again, to develop and refine your solution for the identified challenge that you have with them. And then again, part of that is also access to their data sets, or testing your solution, make sure that it's doing what it needs to. So then there's a question there: does this price support network connect your reimbursement similar to the solar price format? So we don't offer, I'm not sure if I understand the question fully, so I'll answer it how I think of what you're asking, and if not, please feel free to retype the question if I didn't get it right. As in do. Oh, okay. So I think you put in another question there. So do phase winners receive money to give to their top 3 connectors? No. If you have worked with a power connector, either in the American Made network or Ensemble and yet too, there is no caveat. I know that some of your winnings need to go to them. It's entirely to you and your company to decide with you all what to do with that. So there's no money that needs to go back to the power connectors for this prize specifically. There's also a question: that headquartered in the US with the US headquarters, but the parent company is foreign. Are we eligible? I would recommend that you review the entire eligibility list on the official rules document to see if you qualify. If you still have questions, please feel free to reach out to us again at that Digitizing Utilities Prize at nrel.gov, and we're happy to kind of walk you through that. But my first answer would just be to review the full list of eligibility requirements there. So there's a question about where is the utilities partner request form. I think if you're referring to the form to post, we haven't made that public yet, but we will be opening that shortly. And again, that's where you can put in name, email, team, experience, all of that kind of stuff in there. And we'll kind of put that at the top of the form as well, so it's easy for reference. And so again, we don't have anything at the moment, but that will be coming shortly. So again, make sure you're following the prize to get notified on when that new form does pop up. From the HeroX submission page, what is the definition of diverse or underrepresented populations? So we don't have a specific definition that we are going by, but more of just the general understanding of what diverse and underrepresented populations typically means. So if you were to Google that phrase, does anyone in your team fall under those categories? So then there's also a question, other than eligibility requirements mentioned on the website, is there any other requirements which increases the chance of winning the prize, such as reference letters? There are specific requirements, again, which need to be that letter of commitment or support from the utility, unless you're a utility yourself. You are able to also upload reference letters if you would like. Please make sure that they are referring to your solution or to your your product and the challenge and this prize specifically. General letters of support won't be taken into account or anything like that. They aren't required, and they do provide additional context for the reviewers with your submission. So I can't guarantee that it will increase your score or increase your chances of winning the prize. But again, as long as they relate specifically to the prize and the challenge, then I would say that they wouldn't hurt to submit. But please don't submit multi-page letters and no general letters of support. And as well as please don't bombard, I think there is a limit of 3 or 5 letters there. So please don't be submitting 10 or something like that. Just whatever you think makes your submission look the strongest in the eyes of our reviewers. Are there any other questions? I'll give it a few more minutes, but again, if there's nothing else, please be following the HeroX page for updates, and reach out to us at Digitizing Utilities prize at nrel.gov if you've got anything. So there's a question, will utility problem statements be approved as challenge worthy before a phase 1 submission, or a competitor is supposed to make that judgment beforehand? So that's between you and the utility. We won't be reviewing any of the challenges and proposed solutions before that phase 1 submission. So it's really what you and your utility partner decide as being a good fit for between the two of you and your team's experience and what they're looking for in terms of a solution. and what you think you can get solved in 6 months. I wouldn't say that you have to 100% have the solution resolved in 6 months. Some of these things do take a little bit more time, but as long as it's something that you can demonstrate that you've made significant progress on, I think that's definitely noteworthy for DOE, that you've identified a challenge and you've made significant progress in those 6 months, but it may need another 3 or 6 months to fully finish. I think that's okay. In the utility partner program, will we get details about some of the data challenges of utilities? That's a good question. So we are still working to reach out to other utilities who might be interested. Again, we're working with our power connectors to do that. And that kind of teaming event, I assume from the question, you may not have a utility partner at the moment. And so that kind of teaming event will be your chance to get in touch with the utilities and figure out what are their data challenges and where can you and your team fit into that. But at the moment, we won't be providing anything specifically about which utilities are looking for which data challenges to get solved. Any other questions available? I'll give it maybe just another 10 or 15 seconds if you've got something. Again, please feel free to reach out to us. You can post on HeroX and ask us questions there, or email us at digitizingutilities.nrel.gov with anything. Are multiple applications encouraged? So you, in the official rules document, it'll state that you're only allowed a single submission per team. So make sure that you've worked with utility partner to identify the appropriate challenge that you're wanting to work on. There's a question: can a company win 2 prizes working with 2 different utilities in track 1 and track 2? So that is a little difficult to answer. So if it's a single team working with in both track 1 and track 2, that isn't allowed because, again, as the official rules document states, you are only allowed to submit 1 submission. So you would have to pick track 1 or track 2 or both. But if it's 2 different utilities, you're probably going for 2 different, 2 completely different submissions. If your company is large enough that you can do 1 team in track 1 and 1 team in track 2, I think that should be okay. But again, please refer to the official rules document for a concrete and more finalized answer. And if you still have questions, please feel free to reach out to us. All right, it doesn't look like anything else is coming in. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time today. Again, reach out to us on HeroX. Please be sure that you're following the page and the price specifically. And if you've got anything, please, again, reach out to us at digitizingutilities.nrel.gov.